Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the first show of 2018. It's actually the 103rd show of 2018. It's the first show of 2020. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you with us today. We're talking about Tennessee's big Gator Bowl win. We're talking about Tennessee's loss yesterday, but the bright spot that came with that. There's already movement on Jeremy Pruitt's staff. We got a lot to cover, a lot of people here to do it. Let's get right into today's show. First segment brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. If you're like me, you think of Junk Be Gone when it comes to hauling away old or unused items. I get them for spring cleaning. They do a great job with your home, stuff in your yard. They can get rid of all that. But Junk Be Gone is also used by companies across East Tennessee. Companies. They use them for shredding, small demolition work, and of course, hauling junk out of there. So if you're a business owner or you work for a company and you're looking for ways to clean up some of the mess and do some of the shredding, easy call, Junk Be Gone. You can find them at junkbegone.biz. They do great work. I promise you that. I've used them many times myself. Junk Be Gone. All right. These guys aren't junk. These guys are aces. We got right here Will Overstreet, VFL. We have from WNML the pairing of Josh Ward and Jimmy Himes. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Glad to have everyone here. We kick off, and let's go ahead and tell you what we got today. It is a big show. We're going to do the Gator Bowl wrap-up, offense and defense. We'll talk about the Vols losing to LSU and Vescovi's debut. We're going to talk Garantano and the 2020 quarterback discussion, coaching turnover on Pruitt's staff, feelings on Pruitt's second season. How did he do? How good will the 2020s be to the Vols? So, as you can see, a lot of stuff. But we'll start with a game that basically summed up a season. Everyone by now has seen the stat. And I'll credit ESPN for mentioning it right at the end of the broadcast. Teams going into that game on Thursday were 0-471 when trailing by 13 or more with 5 minutes or less to play. Tennessee became the first in 472 games to pull out the victory. And I think when you go back and you look at how this team started, I mean, remember, there was talk of, all right, Pruitt's not going to work, so where are we going next? You start 0-2, you start 1-4, and then to come all the way back to 8-5. I don't know if I've ever seen a bowl game, maybe the 85 season, 86 Sugar Bowl. I've never seen a bowl game encapsulate so well what a season was as that one. Your thoughts on just the overall comeback and that victory?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, to see that you had the issues at quarterback, you had issues on defense of guys, not lining incorrectly, but jumping off sides. You just saw the huge issues that had plagued this team throughout the year. Of
red zone troubles.
Red zone troubles. When you were playing bad, you were playing really bad. And then you saw a few things that got better over the time. All of a sudden, you had pass rush. It wasn't always getting there, and you caused some issues with your quarterback getting out. Your offensive line had a dominant game in a lot of areas in the run game. And so you saw a whole encapsulation of this team of what it could be and what it could have been at a win 2 more games, this year and be a 10-win season. And then you saw that team a couple of times that you're like, all right, it has no quarterback that can make a play, and it's going to make some stupid mistakes and shoot itself in the foot. So you had a team that looked like, hey, that's a team that gets a coach fired. Yeah. And so it did encapsulate the season. It was just incredible to watch it, and that they won. I mean, because if you lose that game, you're going to have a different tone coming into this offseason of people talking about what the coaching staff did.
I was spying social media, and yes, it would not have been a pretty offseason for Jeremy Pruitt. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, middle of the season. There were questions about Jeremy Pruitt and is he the right guy? Can he get it done? Into the future. In the middle of the Indiana game, Butch Jones beat these Big Ten teams in the Gator Bowl and the other bowl games, and then by the end of the game, Jeremy Pruitt and his coaching staff and the adjustments they made fans feel better again, just like at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, to me, it was a microcosm of the season for the team and a microcosm of the quarterback position. You had ups and downs with both of them. And Tennessee did find a way to win it. I give them a lot of credit for that when they weren't playing very well. Started out pretty good, except for the red zone situation. Then Indiana outplayed Tennessee for a while. Then Tennessee in the last 7 minutes pulls it out. So I give them a lot of credit for that. But it's still the ebbs and flows of that game. I know a lot of people that turned it off with 7 minutes left. It's done. And so But they did find a way to win. I give them some credit for that.
I had some people say to me that that game felt like a loss or didn't feel like a win to them. I just thought, no. Over the last decade, heck, since you played, you haven't won any championships over there. Tennessee knows what a loss feels like. What would have felt very Tennessee is if they'd lost in the exact same position flipped. If that kid hits the 52-yarder, that's what would have felt like a loss. This should have been, that's a joyous occasion. It's a do-nothing bowl, as most of them are. The only thing is win the thing, and you won it. So, boy, I think that was a...
There were shades of BYU in the game because Tennessee gets the lead and then Indiana hits some plays down the field, but in this game, Tennessee is able to get the stops.
I also thought it was a little like the Georgia State game, and you're looking at it, and in that first half, it was clear which team had the better players. It was clear. I mean, you're pushing them around.
Yep.
They couldn't do anything on offense. They couldn't stop you except in the red zone. But like the Georgia State game, or unlike the Georgia State game, they actually turned it around and won the game anyway. When you look at Jeremy Pruitt in this game, the onside kick call, I think that shows growth. And we'll talk later on about his second year. But you go back a year ago when he's trying onside kicks, 5, 6 times? He's doing the surprise kicks 4 or 5 times that. This year, he waits. And I think last year I kept pointing out it's kind of a desperate rookie coaching thing. He didn't do that this year. Instead, he has the perfect call, and boy, they executed it perfectly. I thought that was a great showing by Jeremy Pruitt to pull that out when he did.
Yeah, and I don't know if you get the ball back because at that point you have to get that kick or get an extra possession because you'd seen at that point their quarterback, their best play was their quarterback scrambling and being able to get out there. So I don't know if you're able to get that ball back if they're not able to milk the clock away by just keeping it in his hands. And so I think they felt at that point, we have to get an extra possession here, and we got to find a way to do it right now. So they used it at the right time. They'd obviously scouted and seen one of their guys drop back a little too early. You're never supposed to be on that front line until you see the ball kick, start heading backwards. But what you start seeing is those guys start drifting, and that's where they're going to go for the kick, and that's exactly what they did.
I got a kick out of Pruitt's succinct explanation. When I asked about it, he said, well, we were down a score. That's why I did it. Okay. Yeah. But, there is a concern about getting the ball back. I thought they might kick it deep because you still had the 3 timeouts left. But still, it was a great move. And I give Eric Gray some credit, too, because he waited. There was a chance where he could have touched it at 9 yards instead of 10. And I know they reviewed it. I thought the call was correct. But I thought he showed a pretty good football IQ of waiting until the ball went 10 yards. Although he wasn't 100% sure.
Well, he said after the game, I was just glad that I caught it at 10 and not 9. So there's a little bit of luck involved, but then Tennessee, again, took advantage of that.
And how good was Eric Gray, too?
Yeah.
He had an outstanding game.
An MVP performance, and did it on 14 touches, and 14 rushes, I should say. When you look at that onside kick, you also have to give credit to the kicker. I mean, Paxton Brooks did it.
Yeah.
You could tell, I think Jeremy Pruitt said they've repped that like 500 times over the course of the season. You could tell it because, pressure's on. That is not an easy kick to make, and for him to nail it the way he did as perfectly, that had to be the way they drew it up. I mean, I can't imagine they drew it up any differently. It was perfect. You got to give him credit. I thought that they were calling it the Paxton special after the game. Overall, I mean, we said it's a fitting end. Does this change your outlook for 2020, or do you still look at it and go, nah, I think they'll be about where they were? I'm not falling for this hype.
I'm not falling for the hype because I think you still saw what's your quarterback position, right? I mean, you're looking at that, and then you look at Trey Smith going, and you've got a couple other holes that you're going, Daniel Patulli. You have these things that you're like, who's going to fill in those spots? So I can't go, this is a 10-win team for sure going into next year. I think this is a team that looks at an 8-5 schedule and says, I think you can do that. But until you tell me where those other positions, how they grow up and how they fill in those gaps, I'm not sitting here going, Florida and Georgia need to watch out this year. I still think you got to pump the brakes on that till you see what they have.
Yeah, same answer. If Indiana does recover the onside kick, or if there's
or if they hit that field goal.
Yeah, and Indiana wins the game, does that change what Tennessee is either? No. So I would say the big picture look that we'll take, that'll tell us where things are heading into this year and beyond.
It doesn't change mine, and I've long not believed that, a ball win is going to carry momentum into the next year. Your concern, as Will pointed out, as a quarterback, and the leadership that you got. I thought the senior leadership you got from Batuli, from Taylor, from
Nigel Warrior,
from Jennings, from Nigel Warrior. I thought all that group. I thought in Callaway. So now you got to replace that. Are you going to find that? I think every year the team has a different chemistry about it. And how are you going to find the people to step forward? And you better get better play at quarterback, or you're not going to match the 8 wins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
One last note I thought was interesting. If that kid hits the 52-yarder, and if that had been a 47-yard kick, I think it might have been good. So they're lucky it was back. But if that kid hits that 52-yarder, we would have been talking about the fact that he passed on the sure points down there and went for it on 4th down, which would have been the complete opposite of why everyone turned on Butch Jones against Oklahoma for taking the points and not going for it. I don't think I didn't have that as a check mark on the notepad. Oh, this is going to be funny. But the kid misses the field goal. Tennessee gets the win. And to get to 8-5 when you start out 1-4, I did not see any way they get there. Now, you can argue, should they have been better than 8-5? But if you just take it from the Florida game, from that point on, I saw no way they could get to 8-5. You got to give them a world of credit for keeping that team on the rails at that point. All right, very good. We got a lot more to cover. We got basketball next, but then we get back to football. Mark Pankratz, Mike Strange join us. We're going to talk about LSU. We're going to talk about Santiago Vescovi. Come on back on the Sports Source.
The biggest sports crew in the state of Tennessee. This is the Sports Source.